Good morning everybody, and welcome to yet another magnificent African dawn. The sun is just struggling to peep up through the clouds there on the eastern horizon. And I'm just going to be quiet for 2 seconds to demonstrate the quietness of the dawn chorus this morning. It is a winter dawn chorus, and you are most welcome on this, a live dawn safari. My name is James Jeandre. On camera today is Wium Dorenbrak, very fashionably dressed in safari attire today. Well done, Wium.
I've got my fancy pants on.
He's got his fancy pants on and his fancy shoes. Very nicely done, Wium. For the next 3 hours, you will be on drive with us here, and we're going to explore Djuma, that's the little reserve we're on now, to the east of us, Cheetah Plains. We might pop along there a bit later, and Brent may go off to the west, which is Arathusa. And those are the 3 reserves here in the middle of the Sabi Sands, which is in turn in the middle of the Kruger National Park, which is in turn in the middle of the Greater Limpopo Transfrontier Park. 8 million acres of untrammeled African wilderness, and that's what we're going to be exploring today for the next 3 hours. Please do talk to us as we go along the way. Hashtag SafariLIVE if you want to talk to us on Twitter, or questions at WildEarth.tv if you want to talk to us on the email. Now, we've come into this particular area not just to look at the sun that is sort of threatening to rise up above that bank of misty cloud on the east, but we did see a hyena running this way. And there is an old hyena den. We are suspicious that the hyena den on Aubrey's road, which is to the north of us, has moved. And so what we're going to do is go and check the old hyena den this side, and then we'll have a look and see if we can't find some tracks of leopard. Karula was last seen in this area with her 2 cubs. Likewise, Shadow's tracks, we think, came into this area yesterday evening. So maybe, with any luck, we'll pick up one of those 2 magnificent leopards. If we don't, there will be other wonders for us to explore and enjoy for the next 3 hours. Here we go. It's about 14 degrees Celsius, so not very cold. And Kyle, you were obviously listening to the damn camera as the morning broke today, and you heard those lions calling, and any guesses where they are? Kyle, I'm afraid because of where we live, and this way it's designed, you know, we're sort of in a courtyard, so it's almost impossible to tell where sound is coming from. So I don't know. I'm going to suspect up towards Buffelshoek Dam. Brent is going to head towards Sydney's, towards the north, which is to the east, north and west of us. Then he'll head east, and we'll kind of do a southern loop and end up probably around Buffelshoek Dam. I think they were north of our boundary though, Kyle. Alright, here's the little track that goes down to the old hyena den, a very picturesque part of the neighborhood. So if I was a hyena, I would consider this a very good spot to have my den. And look at that mist just sort of gathering there in the lowlands. Very gentle, undulating topography is how I always describe this sort of landscape. And so we don't have any great canyons or any great mountains in this particular area, but you do get this gathering of mist where the air is much cooler in the winter down in the dips or troughs. And I think you'll probably find the sun has actually come up, but it hasn't managed to get through that bank yet. It was a very misty morning to start with, but that has very quickly disappeared. And while I say it's 14 degrees Celsius, which I think is around, if I'm not mistaken, I've forgotten, I think about 67 degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. That's not very cold. Really not very cold at all. Right, there does seem to be quite a lot of hyena activity on the road. None of it very fresh. Watch your heads, everybody. I know it's difficult to ask you to duck down at this early stage of the morning. But we'll just ease our way through here and see if that hyena that came jogging along here, or towards here, has set up shop here. I suspect quite strongly that that is not the case, but we'll have a look anyway. It may have been that the hyena that was running this way, of course, hyenas have tremendously powerful senses of smell, so it's well possible that it smelt something in this area or heard something meeting a hapless end, perhaps a duiker going "Wee!" as a leopard jumped on it, and the hyena then will try and pilfer whatever meal it can. Wimpy, I don't think there's a great deal of new activity at this den. What do you think?
No, I think it's vacant.
You think it's vacant? I would tend to agree with you. So we'll just ease our way around here. That's the den side, everyone. That used to be where the hyenas liked to be. And let's just have a quick listen. We'll be very quiet for about 10 seconds. Well, Wium awkwardly points the camera at me while I'm quiet for 10 seconds. So thank you very much, Wium. There, we've got some kudu alarm calling. Now, I don't know if you heard that, everyone. It would have sounded like a sort of bark of a dog in the distance. And sounds like in the region of Treehouse Dam, which is over in that direction there. So south of where we are now, Treehouse Mine at the moment. And so we'll drive around there and see what we can find. That's quite exciting. Now, remember that while our eyes are not bad for animal eyes, our ears are greatly underrated as sources of finding game and animals, because we tend to be, well, we just don't use them in the same way that our human ancestors used to use them, but our ears are pretty good. And so stopping and listening is a crucial part of what we do. Now that kudu could be just alarm calling at the hyena running past. It could be alarm calling at a leopard in the area. And that's actually where Steph had some kudu alarm calling yesterday morning. So I don't know, maybe there's a leopard that's had a kill there for a few days. Watch out there, Wimpy. And Morning Glory, wonderful Twitter handle that. You say that surely there must be some kind of story to be told this morning, given the noises that were heard around here yesterday evening. I've no doubt there are, and we'll try and unpack them as the morning goes on, Morning Glory. I was just going to say that I thought it's a very subdued winter chorus. There was I think I heard a lark calling very gently in the background. There was a babbler and perhaps a white-browed scrub robin as well, but otherwise not a very loud morning chorus. I'm going to drive quite quickly, this is quite a distance to get around to the other side, but I have to stop here quickly just so I know Wium's going to film me here because he likes to film very large animals only. But just look at that mist there. It is too spectacular for words. Oh, wow. That's not the horizon, everyone. That is a bank of clouds that has sat upon the valley of the Great Mulwati drainage line. All right, Wium, we can carry on. You like mist? Oh, good.
Especially leopards in the mist.
Leopards in the mist, yes. There are lots of elephant tracks all over the road here. Maybe we'll be lucky with some of them. And Tina, you say hyenas in the mist? Well, that's what we had this morning, running directly to where we heard that kudu alarming. And I don't know if you did hear it, but it's a sort of, like I say, a distant dog's bark, but very deep and resonant, and it will move very easily through thick mist and through thick bush. It's a very low frequency sound. And you'll find that animals that live in this area and tend to live in thicker bush will make, if they do make any sound at all, will make low frequency sounds. They tend to travel better through the leaves. I don't know why. And Chris Rogue, you say you did hear the kudu barking. Chris Rogue, you obviously have a very fine set of speakers or earphones. That's great. I always say that life is a little bit too short to listen to music through bad speakers, and the same goes for the bush. Right, here are some zebra, so we'll have another listen while we're over here. But let's just have a look at these zebras. which don't look particularly terrified by life, indicating that they're unlikely to be attacked very shortly by lions. There's also a giraffe up ahead. Oh, and an impala. It's all happening, Wium. Let's quickly go forward. This is a great suite of animals. The first zebra sighting we had today was rejected by Wium on account of the fact that he said we needed to find a leopard. This is a really nice herd of zebra actually. And there's our giraffe disappearing into the bush. They, of course, linking to the kudu and their low-frequency alarm bark. We're pretty sure that giraffe communicate with a low-frequency rumble, a bit like elephants do. And they, of course, are browsers, so they're often found in relatively thick bush. There we go. And just quickly, Wium, if you don't mind, the impala, I know that they're frightfully common, but there they are. Let us not look a gift impala in the mouth.
Yeah, but it would help if you're not parked behind the trees.
I'm sorry about that, Wium. You know, you come back from leave and, you know, it takes a little while to get back into things. He's just rubbing his horns there on the bush. Okay, I'm not going to tarry here, everybody. I think we should carry on and see if we can't find what that kudu was alarm calling at. Is that right, Wium?
Who wants to leave now?
Exactly, I want to leave now, Wium. And my current favourite Twitter handle at the moment, Blue Butter Frog. Blue Butter Frog, you want to know when it's misty like this, is there a fresh smell? Yes, there is. There's always a fresh smell, but this one is particularly fresh because of the moisture in the air, absolutely. On a kind of dry winter morning, you find that it is still fresh, but it does smell a bit more dusty. Now, Wium, this is around about where we last saw Shadow, of course, you and I, when we were still friends.
I don't know, we stopped being friends.
Well, you just started shouting at me, you know, and I feel you don't like me anymore. See, he didn't deny it, everybody. He didn't deny it at all.
I'm just thinking of...
We've got some tracks of lions on the road. It's quite exciting. Here we go. Karen, you say the misty morning would also be nice for wild dogs. It most certainly would. These tracks have gone off the road. I can't see them. No, there they are. Lion tracks still on the road. Let's just drive slowly down here and have a listen. Brent, by the way, popped a tyre before he'd even got going. That's why you haven't seen him yet. Hear anything further at the moment. It's always a little bit difficult to decide how quickly to try and follow the tracks, because you can miss them if you go quickly. But at the same time, a lion like this will move big distances. Yeah, he's going straight down the road here. I'm not going to stop and show you the tracks. Let's just keep going while they're on here, and we're heading towards where the kudu was. And James, Richard, do you want to know if the mist aids or hinders the tracking process? When it's like this, I don't think it makes any difference at all. Obviously, when it's very thick, James, well, then it can hinder it, certainly. Because, yeah, I've had experiences where we've been tracking lions, for example, and they will just suddenly appear out of the mist when the visibility is perhaps lower than 30 or 40 meters. Right, let's keep going along here. The tracks are still on the road. Now, this is where I thought the kudu were calling. There they go. They still go down the road here. Wouldn't it be nice to see him appear out of the bushes? I don't see him no more. Where is he that side? No. Not?
No.
Just going to be quiet for a second, everyone. Now, of course, while we're sitting here listening, a hyena would have come this way if it had heard something being killed. And we tend to think of hyenas as being sort of devious scavengers all the time. But the greatest scavenger out here, of course, is a male lion. They will steal from absolutely anyone. So he could well have come along here for the same reasons, except this kind of obvious walking along the road does tend to indicate that he's marking territory, and maybe he was calling last night too. Let's see if he goes off the road, and then we'll head down towards Treehouse Dam. I'll just go backwards and see if I can find his tracks. And there they are. I don't see where they go though. Wiumpy, keep an eye on the other side there if you don't mind. Nothing. Right, I think we should go down towards Treehouse Dam at this stage. We won't go backwards all the way, everyone. Just some of the way. There's a little bit of water at Treehouse Dam, so it's possible, you know, that something met its end while it was trying to have a drink there last night. Plenty of elephant tracks around. And Chris Rogue, I suppose, dovetailing with James Richards' question, does the moisture from the mist enhance the tracks? Yes, I suppose it would. In some ways, it would make them more obvious. They would reflect more light from the little bit of moisture on them. The contrast would be that much greater, especially if there'd been a heavy dew and the tracks were fresh. Then that dew surface would, of course, be broken by any animal walking down the road. And that would break the tracks and it would make it a bit more obvious. At the same time, though, after a heavy mist and a heavy dew, if we'd had a lot of sunshine, that would then cake the tracks and it would make it quite difficult to age them. I don't see his tracks coming out here. So what we'll do is we'll continue off to the east and then do a sort of loop around. And as you were all saying or mentioning, the fact that there was so much noise and activity in the night would surely have a story for us to tell this morning. So often though, when the prospects are great, because of noise and tracks and great expectations, I find that things tend to be quiet, and quite the opposite happens when nothing has gone on during the night. We'll just have another little listen here. MP, there's some lovely mist off to your left-hand side, your new favourite thing.
I wouldn't go that far.
Not that far, okay, fair enough. What on earth was that? Alrighty, while we discover what's happening around here, let's head across to Brent. He has managed to fix his tyre, and I'll see you briefly.
Welcome to the Sunrise Safari. Sorry we're a little bit late. I'm absolutely filthy. I've been in the dirt, changing tyres with very little help from the camera department. And there's the camera department. He didn't want to ruin his thumb this morning. So it's Brian and myself out on the Wendela. So the killer bees are out in full force on this gorgeous sunrise safari. And the mist is just burning off. We just want to show you how absolutely stunning that looks as we look through back to the WildEarth antenna with the sunrise and the mist sitting at tree tops towards around the Buffelshoek boundary. And you can have a look. There we go. Brian's going to zoom in for you now. We have a slight camera malfunction, but it's sorted. Look at that. And you can see the WildEarth antenna and that mist sitting in the treetops. And what an absolutely wonderful time of the day to be out in the African bush. Now, I'm a huge fan of the African bush. I don't mind whether it's midday, afternoon, early morning, but I think at the moment for me, these early winter mornings are just absolutely to die for. You've got fresh tracks, you've got animals vocalizing, and you've just got some of the most stunning scenery around. But it is going to be a very, very exciting sunrise safari. Of course, we have Commander Bond in the other vehicle, making lots of jokes and battling to track animals, but I'm only joking. So hopefully James has some luck with those lion tracks, because James is on lion tracks. I'm going to focus on leopard tracks this morning. And we had such a wonderful leopard day yesterday. I'm just hoping we can continue our luck. So let's get going and see what's out and about in the wonderful wilderness of Djuma Private Game Reserve. Anna Marie is on fine fettle this morning. Anna Marie would like to know, what is the average life expectancy of a tyre in the bush? Well, it depends who's been driving the car, Anna Marie, to be honest. So I would say our average tyre, I mean, we've got some on the vehicles that are probably 3 or 4 years old. And it just depends. So we've got really thick tyres. They are 16 ply tyres on the base. So there are 16 layers of rubber on the base, and the base is not actually our problem most of the time. It's the side walls get sliced by sharp branches. And the side walls are 8 ply. So I will probably say our new tyres have lasted very well, but I'd probably say it's about 2 years. We do patch, repair, and fix a lot. So fortunately, I've got big enough and ugly enough that I don't have to fix my own tyres anymore. But it's not a fun thing. You need tyre levers and all sorts of things, and these are very hefty tyres to get off the rim. But fortunately, we have wonderful gentlemen at the Djuma workshop who fix our tyres for us for a small nominal fee. And we're going to go now have a look for leopard tracks. I'm still convinced Queen Karula and the cubs are hiding somewhere on Djuma. If you're not sure who Queen Karula is, she's our dominant female leopard. She's got 2 gorgeous cubs at the moment. But speaking of tracking, I need to find those tracks. So let's go to James, who's got some lion tracks.
So we've come around the block, literally the block. I think for some of you it must seem a bit strange for us to use language like that, but in the same way that you would refer to a city block, so we refer to the blocks here. And we've come around to see if those lion tracks don't pop out. They haven't as yet, as far as I can see. So we'll just keep doing a loop around where the hyena went and possibly then where that male lion went. His tracks did not pop out going towards the dam there. There was an elephant very cross somewhere around the camp this morning. And I wonder if it wasn't if it didn't stumble across one of these predators. But who knows? Of course, the road is the bush newspaper of the morning, and therefore will tell us the story of the night. And Lucy in South Bend, Indiana, goodness gracious, there are mammals all over the place here today. There's a kudu. I don't think this is the same area where we heard her calling, or him calling, earlier. And that's a cow. Lucy, you want to know about the thick mist and whether animals move around more in it. I think you'll find that they will move into areas much like they will in the dark, where they can see and hear better. So probably into more open areas for animals like the impala. There's an impala. I'll just sneak a little bit forward. Young male impala. Particularly confiding at the moment. I know that that one is behind a tree. There he goes. Join his mates. It always amazes me how, with human beings, we often, our legs are, if you have to run through thick bush like this, you'll fall over the place, you'll trip over something, and yet with all four legs, these animals manage to dexterously sort of step between things, not break an ankle, not break a leg, as they step in holes and step over bits and pieces of vegetation. There's our kudu cow. She's still there. Well, Joey, a very nice question. Sorry, I think often, one forgets that the perspective on the screen is difficult to, it's difficult to gauge the actual size of animals. You want to know how tall a kudu is. Well, that kudu is about 4.5 feet. In fact, no, probably 5 feet at the shoulder, maybe even a little bit taller than that. So about 5 feet, which is about 1.5 meters or so at the shoulder. In fact, even more than that. No, about 1.5 meters at the shoulder. So she's quite tall. She's by far the tallest antelope that we have out here. Right, Wium, you've had enough of the kudu? We'll carry on, shall we? It's turning into a rather glorious morning. The light is remaining soft. Yesterday the sun came up and it immediately kind of washed out. Those kudu and impala looked particularly relaxed about life. So what we'll do is we'll go, there's another road along here to the right-hand side of your screen. We'll take that one, see if it'll come up with anything there, and if we don't, we'll go back to those last tracks.
There's a line track there down there.
You see them there?
On the right-hand side.
Oh, there they are. That's right. Well spotted, Wium. Where he's gone from there. Should we just check the junction here? Of course, they are doing some road modifications, and so some of the areas are very crusted with hard soil, and it's difficult to find tracks. You see him there, Wium? I didn't see him either. You think it's logical to assume that he went left? Why is that?
Well, you're walking on the left of the road. We don't see.
All right, I'll go with your logic. He may have just walked across the block. Anyway, we haven't been up here yet, so let's pop up this way. No one's been down this road. I don't see his tracks here. No. Right. I'm in two minds as to what to do here. I think we should go down Finn's Road. Simply because that's where the hyena was going, and I didn't see the lion track coming across here.
Just around that corner on the right.
He's getting quite full of himself, this cameraman, isn't he? He's giving me all sorts of instructions. One likes to think of oneself as being in charge. Is he there? So he is. Well spotted. Maybe we should leave Wium in charge. There's a duiker in there. Wium, look, I spotted a duiker, you see? You see him in there? Mm-hmm. Just to prove that I'm not totally blind. That is the common or grey duiker. Now, where did this lion go? I can hear the very loud sound of Brent Smith's voice not too far from here. He's up over there. He could actually be another sort of 10 or 12 kilometers north of us. Jody, you say you think you saw an antelope hanging in a tree about 100 meters back. You sure? We'll have a look. We'll have a quick look. I suspect my great tracker Wium would have managed to see that, but it's not impossible. So what we'll do from here, I know Brent is sitting around quarantine, so we'll head off towards the east. Wium, do you see any antelope hanging from a tree, lifeless? Jody, this is about 100 meters back from where we were. But I don't see anything. But keep looking. Thank you for that. I think what we'll do is head across to the east now. Brent, as I say, I can hear his voice on quarantine clearings, and that's where this road goes. And so the last lion track we had is over there, and it's going up the road, but I suspect quite strongly it will cut off towards the east. Oh, that's always a nice thing to see on Game Drive. And Rachel, you want to know about when the best time of day for tracking is. Rachel, now is the best time of day for tracking, just as the sun's popped up, low on the horizon, so it gives great contrast. You can see the different indentations of the tracks, and that's basically the best time to track. And obviously most of the predators are active during the night time, so when the tracks, at least when the morning breaks, so the tracks are normally pretty fresh. If you try and track in the afternoon when the sun is also at the sort of same angle, well, A, you're going to lose light, and B, it's quite likely that if you're tracking a predator, the tracks are from the night before, and so they're less likely to be very fresh. No, nothing in there. Keep going. We will stop at whatever else we see, but we're heading vaguely in the general direction. There's the buffalo. And curious one, you say you too saw the thing that Jody thought may be an antelope hanging from a tree. You thought it was a branch. I think it's quite likely. I have many, many times been fooled into thinking that a hanging piece of sort of dead tree is in fact a dangling antelope leg. That is a buffalo, everyone, lying very relaxedly in the thick bush there. Again, it doesn't seem to have seen a lion too recently, does it, Wium? Wimpy, just up in the tree there, you can see that the spider, a number of spiders, seem to have caught some mist, which is very pretty indeed. Is it not?
Mm-hmm. Spiders in the mist.
Spiders in the mist, yes. Just somehow it's not going to be as popular a movie as Gorillas in the Mist, is it?
I doubt it.
Spiders in the Mist. Okay, let's carry on. Righty. Seems to be a great plethora of bird life out here this morning, but maybe we'll find some hornbills sitting on the tops of the trees catching the first rays. There's one. It's not sitting on the top of a tree though. We're just going to keep going through here for the next little while and see if we can't pick up more tracks. Like I say, there has been quite a lot of activity around Quarantine where that last track was heading. The general direction was in this direction. There's another male impala. Now look at him. I don't know if you can see behind his eyes or around his eyes. His face looks quite blackened and bruised. And I'm interested by that because I thought they would have stopped fighting with each other, but many of the impala are showing signs of the rut. They've got really kind of damaged eye sockets and their faces look battered and bruised, and they're often quite stiff in the front of the shoulder from where they've been boxing with each other. Fighting over ladies, very bad idea. That's a young male. He wouldn't have been doing too much fighting, and you can see how he's fluffed up his fur in order to trap the air underneath it on this, well, relatively cool morning. It's not very cold yet. But he won't have, he doesn't have, you can, I don't know if you noticed, we saw it very briefly with that other adult. This guy's eyes look absolutely fine. The other chap looks dazed and bruised. Oh, that's wonderful, Wium. Very nice. That does tend to happen to me quite a lot, really. See an animal, and it relieves itself of any excess weight. Right, that's the end of that sighting. Thank you, Wium. Now this road we're on is called Ingwe Alley, which basically means leopard alley. I have seen a few leopards here, but not very many. Now let's just try and get a look at this impala's eyes again. With his face generally. He's not being very confiding, in fact he's being plain irritating. It's going to be impossible to film staring straight into the sun, so let's carry on. We're going to pop out on what is known as Twin Dams Road, which is the road that goes through the sort of middle of the reserve, parallel with the Great Valley of the Mulwati drainage line. What's your head here, Wumpy? Oh, just before I go underneath this, you'll be quite interested to know, some of you who like vegetation. Very few of us like vegetation more than we like lions, but still it's quite interesting. You'll see here that the leaves have started to change colour. I mean, this particular branch is going to die because it's been broken off by elephants. But this is the sort of autumnal colour, and that's the most common one. So there is a little bit of red, but largely it goes yellow almost immediately, and then the leaves drop from the trees. So we don't have a great swathe of maroons and yellows and browns like you might say in the boreal forests or in Canada or in many parts of the United States. That's a really nice artistic picture there, Wium. It's very subtle.
I'll try.
Right, on we go. drongo sitting on the branch. Get a quick look at him. Oh, don't fly away. There he is. That's the fork-tailed drongo. He's not alone in this tree. There are a couple of leaf-gleaning birds. There's a woodpecker. You hear it? We'll see what else we can see here. Oh, there's a red-headed weaver without a red head. You hear that woodpecker? Can you see him, Jim?
Yeah.
You got him?
Yeah, my viewfinder was fogged up.
Fogged up.
I think he's gone now.
No, I can hear him. There's a scimitar bill. That's the scimitar bill I think you saw just hop around there. Yep, see the scimitar-shaped bill? Very appropriately named bird, part of the hoopoe group. You can hear an oriole calling. A beautiful bird party here. You can hear a bulbul calling. Where is the woodpecker? It's tapping away from the lightness of the tap. I would say it's probably a cardinal woodpecker, but I can't see it. You know where it is. I think it's actually further away. I think it's on that. There it is. Follow the dead tree up the main trunk. That's it. There we go. He's somewhere there. Yeah, that's him there. You got him. A little bit too down a bit. There. There, you can just see him there moving in the middle of your screen. And what is he?
The redhead.
Yes. The first time I ever said to somebody, you know, I saw a woodpecker, he had a red head. This was a fairly harsh trainer I had. He slapped me about the head and he said they all have red heads. I'll show you a picture, everybody, of what I think it is. He's also got a bit of brown in front of the red, and that's going to be quite telling. There are no further alarm calls, though, so I don't think our lion is too close by here unless he's gone to sleep, which, of course, being a lion, he may well have. So what we're looking at there is a male cardinal woodpecker, and if you look there you can see him. And yes, he does have that very distinctive red head, but he also had that little bit of brown in the front there. That was very distinctive. And very light tapping. He's the smallest woodpecker that we get here. Alrighty. Now, apparently, even though we get 4 woodpeckers here, and South Africa has about 9 species of woodpecker, apparently the family the woodpeckers belong to is very poorly represented in Africa, and much better represented in the New World, where you get, of course, the enormous woodpeckers, which are about a foot long. There's another kudu. There's plenty of general game around here, Wium. North or south, Wium?
South.
I agree. Safari Dean, you want to know which bird Wium reminds me of? I'm going to be careful here, of course. Wium, you remind me of a Scops owl, I think. I think a Scops owl. Would you like to be a Scops owl?
They're not fast enough.
They're not fast enough. They're pretty fast. What bird do you want to be?
I'm a falcon.
A falcon. Okay. Not sure I'd describe you as a falcon.
I'll describe Brent Ferrari as a hardy dog.
Yes, Brent Ferrari is a little bit like a very large hardy dog. Yes. That's got the final control in absolute hysterics. I can hear Geraldine laughing her head off. I do hope that Kirsten will tell Brent that VM described him as a hardy dog. Right, let's keep our focus here. Let's see if our lion didn't pop across here. Brent says he's coming up with something for VM. I suspect I will be the target of his. Oh yes, he's coming up with something for me. I didn't call him a hardy dog, but it's going to be me that bears the brunt. I'll tell you what it'll be, everybody. It'll be something like a wax bill, or a Cape Penduline tit, which is a very small bird like this, or a bumblebee hummingbird, something small.
I said budgie.
Or a budgerigar, yes. There, VMP is the most uncolourful member of the Turrico family. That is the grey go-away bird, which looks slightly like a startled punk, I feel. And again, we can just hear a very subtle dawn chorus today. You can hear the crested barbet. And that Luri or Turrico is just enjoying the first rays of the sun. And a very good question from Stay Big, the answer to which I don't really know. You say, why do we refer to birds as sitting on a branch when they're much more clearly standing or perching? It's just one of those quirks of the English language, I suppose. And I guess it's because they look like they're relaxing, maybe? It's a very good point. I've honestly never thought of that at all. I do wonder where that lion went. Wimpy? What do you think?
We need to go check Gary Main.
Gary Main. Okay, Vim, we can go and check Gary Main. If that's what you want to do.
You asked me.
Yeah, no. I'm happy to do that. That's a very nice point. And Chris Rogue, who says that as much as VM eats, he should be known as a spoonbill. Yes, VM does eat a great deal. Often he brings a spoon with him on drive, and he often leaves it about the place. VM, what did you bring for picnic today?
I think I got an Archie.
An Archie. An Archie, everybody, I think is called a clementine in most parts of the world. It's a citrus fruit, the peels of which will no doubt find their way under my seat at some stage. He also gets on the car with a very large flask of coffee most mornings. What's the current mix, Biam?
3 spoons Milo.
Yes.
1 spoon of coffee.
Yes.
Like a dash of cream.
Yes.
1 spoon of sugar.
Right.
Hot water and milk.
That's quite a mix. There's been plenty of elephant activity around here. You can see the leaves all over the road. Not very fresh elephant activity. Let's just drive slowly through here. I'm rather interested as to where that lion should have gone. We're obviously going in a different direction, but somebody else has checked quarantine clearings. So I'm not sure where he went. Hello, Gareth. Gareth, you asked a very valid question as to where have all the woodland kingfishers gone? Gareth, the woodland kingfishers have absconded into tropical Africa from Senegal in the west, I think probably most of the way across to the Sudan in the east, And they'll be in that area just south of the Sahel. So we've got the Sahara Desert, then you've got a band of arid land underneath the Sahara called the Sahel, and they'll be just below that, where it is now summer, and they like to eat the insects that are on offer there. And it's possible that you might see a woodland kingfisher in its first year not migrated. I saw one very late, in April, late in April, a sort of youngster, which didn't quite have its adult plumage yet. And you might find one or two migratory birds who were born this year or during the last breeding season. They might not migrate, but I think it's highly unlikely. And I certainly haven't seen any now for at least 4 weeks. So that's where they go. And Tony, lovely question from you. You obviously know about birds, you know about vultures, and you say, do we get the bearded vulture here? No, Tony, we don't get the bearded vulture. You say, do they stick to the mountains? Yes, they do. And largely down to the high veld, sort of between the Free State and the Drakensberg, or the Natal Drakensberg, and they hang around there. And the bearded vulture, everybody, has the remarkable sort of habit of picking up a bone, taking it up to a great height, and then dropping it on the rocks in order that it might get the marrow from the middle of the bone. And we had a long discussion yesterday about marrow and the nutritious nature of marrow in the bone. Here's another impala, a ewe. And there's a ram, which suddenly realized he's been spotted. Look, he's only got one horn. Poor fellow. And he's lost from fighting over girls. He also seems to be deeply confused as to which direction he should be walking in. Oh, there are a whole lot of them back there. Many of the impala rams, although the females have almost certainly been mated already or been covered, that testosterone in their bodies, which escalated to extremely high levels during the dark phase of the moon in May, will now, although it will be coming off and dropping down, it will still be quite strong, and so they still won't be particularly pleasant to each other. They'll be still filled with a sense of competition. Righty. Maybe I should just quickly, before we carry on, show you a picture of a bearded vulture so that you know what we're talking about, because they really are quite impressive birds. And I can also just make sure of my memory of its distribution. Where is he? There he is. The bearded vulture. He doesn't look very vulture-like. He's a very good-looking fellow. And there he lives in the mountains. That's his distribution there. You can see the map of South Africa. I'll just cover it with my shadow. That pink bit is the tiny little area in which he lives. Very nice bird. There we go, Wimpy. Do you feel more knowledgeable now? And Jeffrey in Texas, I don't think I've heard from you for a while, Jeffrey. Nice to hear your voice again in my ear, even though it does sound a bit like Kirsten. You want to know what are some of the animals that the indigenous people out here might use for medicine or for traditional uses? Well, the vultures, of course, are suffering horribly, we think. One of the major reasons that their numbers have plummeted so hugely in the last few years is because they are used in traditional medicine quite a lot. There is a large tree that I will be unable to move by hand. And I just want to see which the best way round is. And Jeffrey, because of their association with death, there's often the thought that they have second sight, you know, so that they're able to see the future, or they're able to predict death or something like that. And so they are used quite extensively in traditional medicine. Then other animals that would be used would be hyenas, quite often. Hyena parts fetch enormous prices with the traditional healers out here. Lion parts as well. There was, in fact, I think yesterday, a very large bust. The cops arrested a whole lot of people with lion feet, so they are in high demand. And then the other big one, of course, which you don't see very often here, is pangolin. And you know, Brent saw a pangolin the other day, and that's the scaly anteater, if you like. And their scales, keratinous scales, made of much the same material as rhino horn, for example, are considered to be either auspicious or used in various kinds of potions and concoctions. So those are the major ones, Geoffrey. But I just must reiterate here that although, yes, there are hugely deleterious effects because of population numbers, and so yes, vultures are being affected largely by the depredations of local healers who are trying to get parts. There's often a thought that, you know, a place like the Kruger National Park is necessary because local people will denude wildlife if they're left to their own devices. When in actual fact, of course, the Kruger National Park was only a necessity, and most national parks around the world have only become a necessity since the advent of white settlers and their guns. And they took out huge numbers of wildlife. And that's the main reason that we have national parks at the moment, because that's why they needed to be protected. And I think it's just very important to bear that in mind when we talk about indigenous cultures and the often conflicted space that is the borders of these national parks because of the poverty-stricken people that live on the borders. Very nice question, James Richard, to which I'm afraid, like Jamie apparently the other day, didn't know the answer. I don't know the answer. You say, is there a local word for feather? Yes, there is almost certainly a Shangaan word for feather. I don't know what it is. The Shangaan word for bird is shinyanyana, which I think is a lovely word. And most of the species here will have a local Shangaan name as well. But shinyanyana is the sort of generic term for bird. And I imagine feather is probably quite a similar word. And I don't know of any folklore around the use of feathers. But starting soon, of course, in this area, and you've met him already, is Hubert. And Hubert, of course, is going to be doing a lot of our game scouting, our tracking out here. And he is from the local area, and he has a tremendous amount of indigenous knowledge. Oh, Wimpy, that's a hornbill. Yeah. Very nice. And so, you know, you can read a lot about supposedly indigenous uses for things, but for me, it's much better to get it from the horse's mouth, as it were, because uses of traditional uses of plants and animals and beliefs have changed so profoundly over the last 200 or 300 years that chatting to a guy like Hubert when he comes back from leave is going to be far more, I think, interesting than reading these sort of things out of books. That's true indigenous knowledge now. Now apparently there are squirrels alarm calling at the Djuma Cam, but I'm not going to rush there unless something is seen having a drink. We're going to keep going along here. The squirrels will alarm call at just about anything. And Brenty, I think, is in that area. And Geoffrey, you're wondering if there are any programs around to stop the use of, you know, local products by traditional healers and that sort of thing? And the answer, Jeffrey, is yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the major conservation nightmares from a traditional point of view has been a religion called the Shembe religion, which is a derivation. It's a sort of Christian-derived religion. So it's not, I mean, it's not entirely indigenous at all, but it's that particular sect, it's a Zulu sect of religion, has got it in their heads it's become traditional that everybody who belongs to the religion's got to have a leopard skin pelt hanging around their necks. And of course that is just not sustainable, and there are thousands of leopard skins that, because of this religion, and it's well, like any religion, you know, it creates a certain amount of fervor, and people will spend enormous amounts of money getting the right kit in order to connect with whatever deity it is that they think that they're connecting with. And leopard skins have been a major issue with that, and there's some very successful programs now where conservationists have gone in and they've created synthetic leopard skins, and that seems to be taking over. And so that's one great example of conservation efforts that have, you know, they've communicated and engaged with a traditional belief, well, a semi-traditional belief, and had a great conservation effect. Now we're driving along the southern boundary, and we just might be very lucky to find tracks of Karula or even shadow, going either north or south, but with any luck, north. This was our sort of original plan this morning. The drongos are going crazy. They're catching things out of the air. They're hawking insects, and it's going to be almost impossible for you to see. But they're flying around, and every so often you'll see them stop and they're catching insects. There must be some kind of bloom. They're also having a bit of a fight, a bit of a scrap. There's some elephants calling. That's really cool. That's the fork-tailed drongo, everyone. Pretty common bird in these parts. Joey, you asked a question. It has now completely slipped my mind. If Shadow came across Karula's cubs, you say, what would she do? Joey, Shadow would almost certainly leave them alone. I don't think she would be a threat to them. Whether she would recognize them as her kin, I don't know. If she came across them without Karula, it would be very interesting to know. I don't know what she'd do. I'm pretty 99% sure she wouldn't kill them. If, however, Sindile came across them, well, that would be a different matter, because he is a male, and he's now, well, he's not quite a fully grown adult yet, but that could be a little bit more dangerous for Karula's cubs. But it would be very interesting. I mean, the great question, of course, is will Shadow and Sindile meet up again? And if they do, will Shadow, you know, what will happen with Shadow's cub and Sindile? What kind of interaction will there be there? And in my experience, young male leopards who meet their siblings from a later litter tend to be, while not along the road, hoping that we're going to bump into Sindile, and we'll know him immediately, of course, because he will have a collar on. And the Sabi Sands is monitoring his position all the time. We don't get information every day on where he is. E.B. Murphy, you say, would we have any more luck drawing out the predators if we travelled along the reserve on a mountain bike? E.B., yes. Well, no, we wouldn't draw them out. But certainly lions do react to bicycles. They don't like bicycles. And they often, well, sometimes they do like bicycles. And they seem to be mesmerized by the spokes going around. And you hear quite a few stories of cyclists riding in wildlife areas having to get off their bikes as soon as they see lions, because lions, of course, will react to you on foot completely differently to the way that they will react to you when you're on a bicycle. Now I don't see any further leopard tracks along here, so we'll turn back towards the north at the next road. And it's interesting, Brent reckons that Karula is still on the reserve, and I think that's probably quite likely, because we have not seen her tracks going out. It's always funny, you know, after you get back from leave, it takes a few days to get back into what's going on with the animals and just develop another feeling for the place. You do definitely have some kind of second sense or sixth sense, second nature after a while in an area, and you tend to sort of almost feel what's going on rather than have to look in a completely linear fashion. There's our giraffe from earlier this morning. 2 giraffe, 1 female, 1 young male. Oh, that's the young male. It's nice to see Wium, isn't it? You don't seem very excited, Wium. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Giraffe is not your favourite, is it? Wium's shaking his head, and somebody's been told a very hilarious joke on a game drive just to the south of us. Now look how full his cheeks are. Oh, sorry, we're on the wrong giraffe now. It's alright, she's also got quite full cheeks, but he's got even fuller ones. He's chewing his cud. Don't go behind the bush, you beastly animal. Typical, typical. Anyway, this female is looking quite fixedly towards the east. What she can see. Now watch her cheeks. Oh, she's definitely seen something there. That is the direction that we're going to sort of head off in. You can hear some francolins, and you can maybe hear some hornbills going just behind. Now watch her neck. No, she hasn't swallowed yet. Come on, swallow. Endless chewing if you happen to eat only vegetation, breaking down cellulose and lignin, which make up the structural material of the plants, and of course it's almost impossible to digest. It's why you and I cannot survive on a diet of combretum leaves and ziziphus, quite apart from the thorns that would get into our tongues, have you?
Yeah, that would be horrible.
It would be horrible, wouldn't it? Now watch her throat. Ooh. Did you see that, Wium?
I did.
That was the bolus coming out of the front chamber of the stomach, back into the mouth, and now she gets to re-chew the food that she ate a little bit earlier. And as I always say, I'm so glad I'm not a ruminant.
Right, it would be great.
You think it'd be nice to re-eat your food? Wium, just put the camera back on the giraffe quickly. I think it's seen something. Thanks. That, of course, was a ruse, everyone. I wanted to put on my sun hat, and I didn't want you to be blinded by my balding pate. On we go. Right, Brent Leo Smith has managed to stop his filming. Well, Jeandre has been filming him. And so he is ready to give you an update, and I will continue into the rising sun.
I'm so happy to be back. I'm definitely not made for non-live filming. Apparently, I don't embrace the acting. I like being live, and I like looking for animals. It's much more fun than driving up and down the same 25 meters of quarantine. So, there are lions roaring to the north. There are lion tracks all over the place. And what I actually had to do to get out to be live with you is I brought my stick and I hit Jeandre on the head, and we've left him unconscious in quarantine so we can actually go look for some animals. No, I'm only joking. He's back there still behind me, irritating me. But he's given us permission to go look for some animals. So off we go. I'm really excited not to be doing behind the scenes again. And I'm very excited to have you on the vehicle. So if anyone has just joined, Jeandre has been making Brian and I wave our hair in the morning light, driving up and down the same 25 meters of quarantine. Brian and I, as a joke, in between one of the serious shots, we did a bit of a head banging with our long hair. We rocked out, but now I'm hoping to go find another creature who's got long, beautiful locks like Brian and myself, and that's a male lion. And if you want to ask us questions about what we're doing, if you're a little bit more interested, normally I say ask us questions about the bush, but this has been a very interesting experience for me, so I'm happy to talk about it with you. So pop me an email at questions@wildearth.tv or use the hashtag SafariLIVE on Twitter. You don't only have to ask questions about what we've been doing behind the scenes, you can also ask us about the wonderful natural world that surrounds us. Oh, I'm so excited to be away from that. So, I did hear some elephants as well while we were doing behind the scenes, somewhere in this general vicinity. But I'm more interested in finding those lion tracks. But of course, we will have a look at anything that is not Jeandre with the camera and has a heartbeat, or doesn't. I honestly find every dry blade of grass more entertaining than being behind the scenes. But I understand we have to. Oh, hello! It's a heartbeat. Very pretty little heartbeat. There we go. Hello, ladies and gent. There we go. Some beautiful nyala. There's a big male. Oh, look what he's eating. Now he is eating a timbuti tree. So there are very few animals that eat timbuti trees, and when they do, they are normally eating it because they've got stomach problems, an infestation of tapeworms or fluke worms, and they eat this highly noxious tree to purge their system. And nyala are not the only species. Kudu, baboon, black rhino, elephant, giraffe. Now the milky latex from a timbuti tree, if you get it on your skin, it'll actually burn you. And it's used traditionally in traditional medicine to burn off warts. So very, very potent. Now that poison in the timbuti tree is so potent that even if you inhale the smoke of a fire that's got timbuti wood in it that's very dry, oh look, there we go, it's coming out into the open. Hello, little one. You will get highly nauseous. Even worse if you cook meat or any food on that fire. That smoke, those fumes go into the food and makes you very, very ill. And there we go. Such a beautiful antelope. Hello. Okay, there we go. She's crossed down. They're going to keep moving down this little dry creek system. There's lots of evergreens around these little river systems, so it's the best place for food if you're a browser, which nyala are. Now, we're going to move on. Justin is wondering, what are the medicinal plants that you get in Kruger? Well, there's lots, Justin, and quite often some of the medicinal plants obviously that can help.
Right, so sorry about that. Brent, of course, has gone black screen, so I don't really have anything particularly interesting to say to you other than there's a zebra here. Oh, we didn't get a lot of warning there. Whew. Luckily we're so sharp, isn't it, Wium?
Mm-hmm. In practice.
Yeah. Same lonely zebra. I'm sure he's got some friendies in the bush there. He's got a hornbill friend just above him. 2 hornbill friends. It's nice to see. We're going to go up the road, everyone, where I had initially intended going when Wium spotted the lion tracks again. And we'll see if we can't find something there. Sandy, a nice one from you. I suspect born of the fact that you've heard that zebra are very nasty as zoo animals or to try and keep domestically. You say, are they a danger to humans in the bush? No, in general not. Well, I mean, look, every animal out here is a potential danger to human beings because we're physically pathetic specimens compared with everything out here. But by and large, I'd say 99% of the time, zebra will run away from you. If, however, you were to somehow, and it would be almost impossible, but if you were to somehow corner a zebra so that it felt threatened and it felt like it had no option but to attack in order to make you go away, then you would be in some trouble, yes. Then they would be very nasty, and they are known to be particularly nasty to each other and to other species. So Sandy, yeah, I mean, we've seen many times we've seen zebra, and where, you know, you wouldn't sneak up on a buffalo bull if it knew you were there, because it would either move away, it would show, and be much more likely to come towards you. A zebra will almost universally move away, so it's perfectly safe to sneak up on them in the bush and try and kind of, you know, you can approach them very nicely, safe in the knowledge that they're highly unlikely to turn around and attack you. But were they to decide to attack you, I imagine it would be very unpleasant indeed. That hyena disappeared. I don't know where it went, and likewise the male lion. All right, let's just quickly go and get an update from Brent. He does have signal again, which is good, and I'll keep on this road.
So, of course, our loss of signal I blame on Jeandre. Everything that goes wrong today is Jeandre's fault. Because of I can't explain how much it hurts me when I know there are fresh tracks and animals about to drive up and down on the same 25 meters. We did have some fun though. I nearly ran over him once, which was really enjoyable. His face. As I turned the car towards him while he was running next to us. But let's get a bit more serious. So we're going to try focus on finding tracks. And Justin was asking about medicinal plants. And unfortunately, the medicinal plant I wanted to show you and was right in a dip where we had very bad signal. I will keep a lookout. I know there's some coming up. But a lot of trees will have medicinal properties. Not all of them valid. A lot of them are psychosomatic. It's a thought rather than anything. But a really good one to know, and especially if you have little children out of the bush, there's a couple of tree species that are very high in tannins. So what that does is it acts as a painkiller and numbing device. So baby elephants also feed off these 2 tree species. Now, elephants don't normally feed off these species. This year is a bit different because of the drought. But we got a spike thorn, a gymnosporia. Now, this is how much I love you guys. And Brian loves you as well. And Jeandre definitely loves you. So I'm going to get Jeandre a big bunch of leaves.
I'll eat all these leaves, man.
Here we go. So there we go. Jeandre. Here we go. Now let's go round to where Jeandre is. So we make sure he puts it in his mouth. Hello, he has his leg. So hello, Jeandre. So the gymnosporia, the spike thorn, is very, very high in tannins. So if you chew it, so basically what starts happening is your mouth starts drying. So it actually sucks up all the saliva, and if you chew it, excuse me, for long enough, not only will it dry out the mouth, so it also numbs. You can actually start feeling it on the edge of your gums almost immediately after chewing for a little bit. We're not really going to get a numb mouth from the amount we've eaten, but you can actually feel the slight numbing, and Jeandre is eating more. He's an idiot. So it actually starts numbing. So this is used in... Sorry, Jeandre, let me just ignore him. This is used in traditional medicine for dentistry, for toothaches. So there's a couple of different species that have that very high tannin that can be used. And I've actually had trackers before with a sore tooth and not being able to go to the dentist, literally chew wads of gymnosporia to stop that. Oh, Andrew's trying to get hold of me on the radio. Standing by, Andrew. So Andrew's just looking for an update. I'll be with you in a second. Nothing further info. I'm busy checking Buffalo's Hook cut line, but no updates. Oh no. Now we've got lion tracks of at least 2 or 3 lions. Andrew, I do have an update now. I've got Nkonzo, Sambi and Gala heading west on Buffalo's Hook cut line. We've got to go shortcuts just near the Buffalo's Hook sign. So, copy will do. So, there we go. You can see we've got quite a few tracks there. And if we come out a bit wider, Brian, so you can see, where's my finger? There's one there, and there's a more difficult one to see over there. So there's at least 3. So this is more than likely the Nkahuma Pride, just from the area we're in and where they were found in Buffalo's Hook yesterday. So we've changed our plan. We're no longer heading down the long road to the east. We're going to try the very short road to the west, because our northwestern corner of Djuma is just up here, and I've got a feeling if we're going to see them, we're going to see them on that big open area around Sydney's waterhole. So hopefully a not so clever buffalo wandered down and managed to run and die on our side of the boundary. I'll make sure they haven't gone straight north. No, they're still here. Okay, fingers crossed, guys. I'm definitely feeling a bit of luck. I think we deserve a cat after behind the scenes. So you can just see the lion tracks still heading west. Now, since we're following lion tracks, Lynn in Michigan has heard us and I think all of us talk about walking on foot, and 99% of the time you walk into lions on foot during the day, they run away or move off. And Lynn's wondering if she's got cubs, is her behavior going to change? Most definitely. And she's possibly going to be a bit more aggressive. Normally what they'll do is they'll give you a growl when you're still quite far away, so you know not to go any closer. But I mean, I have been actively searching for a lion den and been charged close enough that I've actually had lions spit on my legs and been blasted with sand. So they are slightly more aggressive and they're more likely to charge. But when you get charged by a lion, there's a very simple rule. A noisy lion's a safe lion, a quiet lion's a dangerous lion. If a lion's going and shouting at you, it's telling you to go away. So, if the lion's coming quietly, it's time to sort of make your peace. And I've only ever really been charged quietly by a lion once in my life, and that was in the Eastern Kruger, and it was by 2 males, and they came completely silently from 70 meters, and they stopped at about blasting my tracker and myself with sand. That was definitely a scary lion experience I've had, and around him, I used some bad words when we were shouting, but it was a very...
Sorry about... Hello everybody, we just got off here in Philemon's Dip to see if we could maybe find some further evidence of the lion tracks. The last one we had was over there, and I haven't found anything in this drainage line at this stage. So we're going to head up towards Quarantine. First, however, this is really cool. In that hole that the elephants dug, and of course the elephants will dig for water, they're very good at digging for water, there was a snail, and he's just seeking out, of course this is a small example of a giant land snail, and what the snail is doing is seeking out the last moisture, of course, before they form a crust of sand over the top there, over the foot, and that's how they'll remain for most of the winter, unless they're found by some sort of predator, of course, which will then eat them, possibly without garlic and butter, which is distasteful. Not so?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm going to put him back exactly where he was. And then we'll continue. There's a delicious smell here, and I think it's that wonderful plant called Hemizygia praetorius, or Pretoria, and I don't know, I don't think it has a common name, but it just smells like it's very difficult to describe. It smells like a comforting smell of home, almost. Right, we'll leave that snail there. I can't see any of the Hemizygia, though. So maybe, maybe it's something else. No, it's not that. Anyway, there it is. We're going to go up onto Quarantine clearings now. We thought we may have seen some elephants there from way the other side. Let me plug myself in so that the dulcet tones of Kirsten McLennan Smith might once again fill my head. Ah, there it is. Go. Oh, there are no further tracks of this line coming up here, so oh, no, hang on, there they are. They're on the road here. They're going up this way. They've been driven over. There is a bit of construction work going on. You've seen how Twin Dams or Treehouse Dam has been made a lot larger. So are all the dams being made larger. And there was a construction vehicle that came down this road earlier on, and he did drive over some tracks there. So this line did come up this way. I shall be most astounded if we just find him lying on Quarantine clearings. I think Brent was around there earlier today. Very, very fresh elephant down around here. We'll go up onto the clearings and they're going the other way though. We'll go up onto the clearings and be quiet for a while. I'll be mortified as this lion is lying on the clearings here. Oh, some angry impala. We'll just have a listen here for a while. There they go, chasing each other. Totally wasting their time at this stage. Still, they are a picture of grace. I love watching them run. I just think it's the most wonderful thing. So completely effortless. Especially, of course, you know, as one gets a little older and one's bones start to creak, so the sort of a flush of running youth becomes that much more impressive. What are you eating? You see, he didn't just only bring an Archie, he bought himself a fairly substantial breakfast bar as well. Oh, you found it in the car. Okay, so Brent has some more signal now. Let's go and find out what's happening with his lion tracks.
So, the most distressing news is those lions went north into Buffalo's Hook. So hopefully they'll be back to visit on the sunset safari. So I'm going to take a delve into the southwestern sectors of Djuma. And this is where Karula was last seen. And I'm really hoping we find some nice fresh tracks. I'm convinced that the cubs and Karula are still on Djuma. We just haven't managed to find where. So Karula is the dominant female leopard in this area, and she's got two little cubs of about 4 months old who are just to die for, to be honest. And I'm really hoping we can find her. I think she's probably got to kill in one of the bigger blocks, and I think she might be utilizing the little creek system between Zoe's road and Rebecca's road to keep those cubs while she's hunting. So fingers crossed that we have a little bit of luck in that area. Now Jamie told me something very interesting yesterday. She thinks on her way to Tingana she found Shadow's tracks coming into Djuma and going into an area that she used to leave her last cub, Simbile, often. So Shadow is a bit of a nasty leopard when you're on foot. She does growl and snarl and charge quite easily, and if she's got a cub it's more likely to do so. So we're just trying to stay away from that area for now, but I'm definitely going to go in there and check one of these days. But if she does have the cub there, we don't want to disturb the area too much. We want her to settle on Djuma so we can see her more often. I've had one tiny brief view of that cub through much foliage. I wouldn't actually even call it a view. So she did have two. She's lost one. We're not sure how she lost the second cub. It is more than likely in this area from another male leopard. So of the known leopard cub mortalities, about 70% are done by other leopards, and specifically male leopards. And the rest are whole various things. I mean, there's some amazing and fascinating records of how cubs have died in this part of the world. I think the strangest one I've ever seen in the Sabi Sands is we had it was a very difficult sighting because we actually watched it and it was very sad, but it is nature, so we don't interfere. We actually watched a big African rock python eat two tiny little leopard cubs, and it was quite distressing, but it is nature at its most raw, and even though it's very difficult to watch, for me it's probably at its most poignant, most beautiful. Okay, well, what have we got walking down the road here? Oh, lots of little things. And it looks like our side-striped jackal have been around here again. Oh, hello, Justin. Justin would like to know what it takes to become excellent tracker and what would I consider to be an exceptional tracker. So Justin, to be honest, as trackers go, I'm probably about as dog average as you can get. There are some gentlemen out here who are absolutely amazing, and I've been very fortunate enough to work with a few of them, and that's where the little, if any, skill I have has come from. So I think 3 guys in particular stand out for me as being absolutely incredible trackers. One was the gentleman I spoke about a little bit earlier, when we got charged by the lions, a guy by the name of Glass Maramani, and the man is a magician. He can see stuff that you can't see. He tracks lions over dolerite rocks and can see where the lichen's been slightly disturbed. And another one, and another great man, unfortunately he passed away very recently. It was a man I shared a birthday with as well. So when I arrived at Londonese, about a week after I arrived, it was my birthday, and it turned out it was my tracker was also his birthday. So I was turning, I think, 24, 25 at the time, and he was turning 61. And he had been tracking for over 30 years. Now, a lot of trackers are able to follow footprint to footprint. The truly exceptional trackers think like animals. So we'd find leopard tracks, for example, here going like this, and Matabulo sit there, go, let's go there, we'll find it there. And I mean, opposite direction to the tracks goes, no, this female should go. So you could predict the animal's movement. Now, you can't do it every single time, but every now and then, or not every now and then, actually, probably about 5 out of 10 times, he would get it spot on. So if you don't get it spot on, you can always go back and follow track to track. And then there's the third gentleman. There's actually a gentleman who we've seen recently. He came up and did some training with us. Is Renius Mhlongo. Again, I mean, the amount of knowledge stored in that man's brain about animals and how they move and a little twist of a toe, and that's why it did this, is absolutely incredible. And I know there's a couple of, there's certainly quite a few more really exceptional trackers out there. But I think for me, in my time in the bush in South Africa, those 3 stand out. Now, before I moved down to South Africa, I was really privileged to work with another man who's passed away. And he passed away quite a few years ago. His name was David. David did not speak a word of English. He was half San, half Ndebele, and came from an area called Pandamatenga on the border of Botswana and Zimbabwe, and basically was a full-blown poacher by the age of 9, and hunting for the pot. And he got caught, and then he got enrolled in the hunting industry, and he worked as a tracker in the hunting industry for many, many years, till my family moved up there, and we found David. And my dad is a great believer in trackers, and they really add to a safari experience. Give the guide time to concentrate and talk to the guests, and they look for the animals. Now, David, in terms of the traditional safari tracker, probably was one of the worst, because he didn't speak to the guests, he didn't even interact with them. He just wanted to find animals. And I spent many years in my teens just alone out in the bush with David, walking through that massive northern Botswana. We were very, very special, and I think I garnered a lot from just being in his presence. Fortunately, we were able to communicate in broken Ndebele, but I think we both spoke the same language, and the language of animals, and just really loved finding them. And he was an expert at tracking everything, but what used to happen at about this time of the year, or probably a month or 2 earlier, my dad used to give him a whole bunch of food and water and a car, and say, well, David, you get massive bonus, go find the wild dog dens. And wild dogs are incredibly difficult to track. Now, the area in Botswana is not like the Sabi Sands. The Sabi Sands is 60,000 hectares, myriad of roads crisscrossing. We, in Botswana, the concession we used to operate in was 232,000 hectares. So over 500,000 acres, and we only had 2 lodges. And so not a lot of roads, not a lot of anything. So David used to disappear for about 5 or 6 days and used to sleep in the car, take his food and water. And for 12 years in a row, he used to find those dog dens every single time. And not only one pack, he used to find 3 different dens in the space of 5 days. And incredibly challenging part of the world in terms of finding that type of stuff. But he was a magician. I was lucky enough to go on some of those dog expeditions during my school holidays. And that's probably the 4 trackers, I think, who shaped my love for tracking. And I wish I was half as good as any of them. So Brian's asked a very question, what is the most exotic animal I found in Djuma? Well, I think I didn't find it. I know it appeared on the Djuma Cam one night. It was a sable antelope, which is pretty exotic, beautiful antelope. But I think the most exotic creature I've ever found in Djuma, Jeandre was actually with me. And we were driving on our way to a leopard sighting, and suddenly we saw this leopard with something in its mouth going up a tree. And I think my exact words, oh, it's got a steer dog. And that was Sindile, who unfortunately caught a rabid dog, or a dog that tested positive for rabies. He's gone into quarantine, and he's now about 2 years old, and he's been re-released into the Sabi Sands with a collar. So he had to be in quarantine. He had to go through a series of injections or vaccinations for the rabies. And he's so far doing well. We don't know exactly where he is, but he's somewhere in the Sabi Sands, and lovely to have him out in the bush again. He does have a collar on for monitoring, and a very, very, very fancy and sophisticated collar. So because he's a young male, it means he's going to grow. Sort of a collar that fits him now is not going to fit him in a year or two's time. So it's basically got a drop-off feature. So once it gets too tight, there's a sensor in it that picks up, and that collar just pops off automatically, which is incredible. And there's been huge advancement in a lot of the satellite collar tracking and stuff like that. Speaking of tracking, we're not finding many tracks around here. Now, I am going to go have a quick squiz at a little bush baby nest that's just down the road, and maybe we might be able to see a little ball of fur. The main reason I want to go there, because I think it's going to be quite difficult from the vehicle to show it to you. It's just for Jeandre, next time he's on bushwalk, so you know where it is, because it's nice and low, so you can actually probably get the camera looking into it. Oh, hyena. So while we meander towards the bush baby nest, let's go see what Commander Bond is up to.
Well, I've just heard some elephants, and Buffelshoek Dam is over there, so that's where we're going. But, you know, yesterday I was talking about, you know, sitting on a log and eating a piece of grass, as Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer might have. And of course, no two grasses are created equal. And so one must find the ultimate contemplative grass-chewing stalk. Yesterday's was a Simbapogan excavatus. Well, it has a very nice name. It tastes like turpentine, and so that's not very good. And so this one, which looks like a very old piece of panicum, nah, in fact I don't know, well no, probably an old piece of Eragrostis. No, this one's a bit better. It's got that nice sort of sweet straw taste. Liam, do you like to chew grass every so often?
No, I'm not a herbivore.
You're not a herbivore?
I'm not a grazer.
No.
I browse.
You browse. Well, we can find you something to browse on. going to drive a little bit faster so we can get to the dam. And let's just bear in mind that we are on a road called Hyena Road, which means that if you are happening to, or if you do happen to have a drink on your lap or in your hand, it's quite likely to end up on your lap as we drive along this road. Not ideal. Now the lion tracks that we saw came out on the road again, and they headed off towards this direction. That's why we're on this road. And it's quite interesting. We saw a female lion the other day, or 2 nights ago, and she headed off on exactly the same path. She turned off towards this road, and I suspect on one of the many game paths that go towards Buffelshoek Dam. So we were just wondering if he hadn't perhaps collapsed in exhaustion on this road, or maybe he's gone to Hyena to the dam, and maybe that's what those elephants are shouting at. We will see when we get there. Now, one of the reasons this road is not in such a fly state, of course, I'll just quickly stop here, is to show you these natural pans. Now, when we talk about a pan, what we mean is a natural piece or natural clay depression, if you like, that will hold water. And they normally happen at the end of what we call a seep line, and this is the end of a seep line, and it's an area where there's a sort of subsurface barrier to the water, and so the water is either held on the surface or it bubbles up from underneath the surface. And it's very characteristic, or characterized by these silver cluster leaf trees. And that's why the road ain't so fly, because of course it does hold water. Oh dear, that is not good news. I think that was driver error rather than machine error. You'd agree with that, wouldn't you, Bjorn?
Yeah.
I thought you would. Rachel, you say when a guide moves to a new area, how long does it take for them to figure out the nuances of the animals and the territories and basically what's going on? Well, it depends very much on the size of the area. So an area like this, not very big, and so, I mean, it didn't take me much more than, I don't know, look, you still learn something new on this reserve every single day, but to learn basically the layout of the territories, Karula's territory, Shadow's territory, Jeandre's territory, those are the 3 main leopards that we see here. I do a month or so, I guess. A little bit longer to get completely au fait with the road network, and then you will pick. I mean, the longer you're here, obviously, the more familiar you become with all the little aspects or nuances of the landscape, and then much longer if you want an in-depth understanding, perhaps, of the personalities of the different animals have that we see regularly. And many of you, of course, have been watching for far longer than I've been driving around here, and therefore your knowledge and experience of, say, Karula, the Queen of Djuma, our famous 12-year-old female leopard, your knowledge is much greater than most of the presenters because you've actually been observing her for that much longer. But I'd say about a month before you were pretty comfortable with the lay of the land and what's going on. But on a much bigger piece of land, say, I don't know, if you were going to go and work at Singita Lubombo, for example, which is in the far western sector, or at least eastern section of the Kruger National Park. I mean, I think that concession is in excess of 15,000 hectares, which is about 35,000 acres. Now, I mean, to learn your way around there and figure out what's going on, especially given the fact that it's much wilder than this in so much as it has a much less or much sparser road network. To find out what's going on there, I think it would take you a few years to really get a handle on all of the territories and all of the animals that were moving around on a vast expanse of wilderness like that. So it really does just depend on the area. What a wonderful question. Justin, I'm not sure why you picked 90 years, but you say, what do I think the Kruger National Park will look like in the next 90 years? I don't know. I think, though, our knowledge and our understanding of conservation is moving towards one of a much more hands-off approach, where we understand, or we've come to the realization that our understanding of the variables at play in a natural system can never probably be enough for us to predict and therefore actively manage an area. And we've come to the realization that an area like this does a much better job of managing itself without us. And so if we can continue along that and continue and accept that perhaps we have to look after a piece of land beyond the time horizon of a human life, then I think that it will look pretty good. I imagine the bush will get a little bit thinner, to be honest, and if they allow the elephants to just develop into the numbers that they would perhaps naturally, and I think otherwise it'll look pretty similar. This is presuming that political will keeps the Kruger National Park as it is now. There's nothing at Buffelshoek Dam except one heron and a Buffelshoek vehicle full of friendly people who are waving at us, either because they've seen something. I don't think they have. So there's the grey heron. I don't know where the hippopotamus has disappeared to. Oh, there were two hippo here yesterday, weren't there, Wium?
Yes.
Alas, they have gone away. Typical. As have the elephants that were yelling in this area earlier. But it is just very peaceful to sit and watch the time go by in a place like this. Now that grey heron is just patiently waiting for some kind of aquatic life to bump him in the foot. And then his beak will shoot down into the water at a quite astonishing speed. And in front of him there you can also just maybe see the surface of the water being broken by some serrated hinged terrapins, just little ones. And you can hear the shout of the grey go-away bird. Oh, there's quite a lot of bird life here. VMP, there's also a wagtail, pied wagtail.
Oui.
You see him there? You're pretty much on him. Hmm? Yes, there are two of them. Justin, of another very nice question. You say, what's one bird in South Africa that I'm still dying to spot that never have? I don't know, actually. I'm trying to think of it. You know, there's a very obvious one, and it's pretty common. I've not seen it here, obviously. I've never seen it. It's something called an orange-breasted waxbill. And it's not uncommon. And many people have seen it. Most people have seen it. It is possibly seen in this area, but I've actually never seen one. And that's a pretty common bird for most. I mean, most birders have seen it. Most people who are serious about seeing birds. I just think it's the most pretty bird. And how I've failed to see it makes me feel greatly distressed in my heart. Anyway, that's the orange-breasted waxbill. But there are lots and lots of birds, Justin, that I haven't seen that are absolutely magnificent. But many of them found, many of them found in what we call southern Africa. So they'd be found north of the South African border. Something like an Angola pitta, for example, is a fantastically colourful bird that I would love to see. Here is Tommy coming past. Good morning. How are you all? Good, wonderful to see you. That is a very large camera lens. I don't know why you got out of bed. You could probably have photographed most of the reserve lying where you were.
Very misty, so
Oh, it was misty. Okay, fair enough. Is there? Good heavens, my camera's bigger than yours. There were some male lion tracks heading from the Gari cut line junction with Central, but I haven't seen them pop out. And did you hear the elephants shouting? There was some shouting around here, but there is only the call of the chin spot batters to keep us company at the moment. They're on Chitwa Chitwa. Yeah, but apparently in very deeply thick bush. Yeah. We could go down there and possibly beat. Yeah, we'll employ some locals and go and beat a bit there. Yeah, good idea. All righty. We're very well, yes, thank you. Yeah. Where are you staying this time? Milkbury. Okay. We'll get hold of you. How long are you there for?
Come and have a drink.
Okay.
We haven't got much drink left.
Oh dear, that's no good at all. Alrighty, enjoy. Alright everyone, I think let's move on from here. Those are some landowners from Buffelshoek, wonderful people, who I met at another time of my life. Their daughter was a friend of an ex-girlfriend of mine. She, of course, is subsequently happily married. Not to me, of course. Now, I was very sure the elephants were calling around here, but those guys say they didn't hear them, but I don't think they've been here for very long. Tracks haven't come out, so let's go down the road here and into this drainage system, and maybe the male lions. Ooh, a female lion, but very old track. Let's keep going along here. Going to pull around the corner here and then we'll turn off and have a listen and see if we can't find something in the air to hear. And we'll go around to that area where we saw that female lion the other night. And Morning Glory, you want to know what a nyala alarm call sounds like? Well, I'll stop here, and while we have our listen, I'll attempt to give you an impression of it. I'm not very good at it, and I imagine the facial expression that I give is going to be fairly unpleasant to watch. So if you are watching with a sensitive viewer, I would suggest that you probably close your eyes now or blindfold them. What it does is it makes a bark, much like the kudu does. The nyala, the kudu, and the bushbuck all have that low-frequency bark sound, and it goes a bit like this. I don't think I've ever done it before. I'll try. Oh, that's not bad, actually. That's what it sounds like. A little bit like that, a little bit deeper than that. Don't look at me like that, VM. Are you not impressed?
Well, if I hear that sound in the bush, I will immediately start looking for
A dog?
or something like a Bigfoot or...
A Bigfoot, right. So it sounds a bit like Bigfoot when it's alarm calling, but that is basically what it sounds like. It's probably a much lower frequency than that, but you may have heard that during the night at the Djuma Cam. Oh! Oh! Liam looks terrified, everyone.
No one actually snored last night, James.
Shut up. I didn't snore. I don't snore. It's impossible.
I heard you through the wall.
You did not hear me through the wall. Do not cast aspersions on my sleeping habits. to people who have no way of knowing whether you're telling the truth or not.
I recorded.
Given that you did not tell us about the vast array of picnic that you brought to yourself this morning, I feel that you shouldn't be talking about my snoring. What a dreadful accusation that is.
So your alarm call made you think of the story.
I see. Now, I have to tell you, I'm at a slight loss as to where anything has gone on this reserve. But this is where the lion tracks were heading towards, and we had the female in a clearing just down here 2 nights ago. We'll see if she's still there. Well, she's definitely not still there, but we'll see if maybe he didn't go there. Now, Luke, you want to know what my favorite bush or plant is? Well, the great thing about bushes and plants, Luke, is that unlike lions and leopards, they're unable to move. And so I should be able to find you my favorite bush or plant. My favorite tree is something called a leopard milkberry. But I've shown you that before, and I'll try and find, I don't know if I have a favorite bush. No, I don't suppose I do. You know, I think it probably is the leopard milkberry. If we find one, I'll show that to you. I'm just going to go around the corner and reminisce about the time, the first drive back that Brian and I had. It was so easy. We found a lion lying right over there in those clearings where there is currently no lion. I will stop, however, and tell you something interesting. Such is the kindness of my nature. Now, this particular plant is... Sorry, the car is sneaking forward quietly.
It's okay, that's that.
1 second. Oh, shut up. Right, this particular plant has a wonderful name, and, well, there are a few nice names out here, the best one probably being Ziziphus, and one should always say that as if one is feeling a bit down. Saying Ziziphus makes you feel better. This one is called Gymnosporia buxifolia, and I think that's a great word, otherwise known as the common spike thorn. But what is interesting about it, far more than the actual tree itself, is the lichen growing on it. And I've explained this before, but I find it amazing every time I see it. But lichen, which you will find all over the world in different species, is a combination, a sort of evolutionary combination of fungus and algae. The algae provide the chlorophyll that the lichen will use to feed itself, and the fungus, as far as I'm aware, provides this kind of structural material, and it's able to sort of attach itself to various different plants. And you'll find them all over the world. I think you find them in, you find them just about, I think you find them on every continent. I think you may even find them in Antarctica, if I'm not mistaken. And they'll live on rocks, they'll live in trees, they live all over the place. And they're a completely separate kingdom. So we often, you know, especially if we're in sort of junior biology, we learn of the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom, and we tend to think of them, you know, those being the only two kingdoms. Well, this is an entirely different kingdom on its own, the lichens. Amazing. Don't you think, Vian? Good. Good answer. On we go. Oh, plugged myself in again. Brent Smith is filming again. Well, he's not filming, Jeandre. Oh, thank goodness. Brent's actually found a mammal for you to look at. What a relief.
So we're sitting amongst a herd of about 60 or 70 elephant. And this inquisitive female has walked up to give us a sniff. She's no more than about 7 or 8 feet from the vehicle at the moment. And you can see from her body language, she's really relaxed. Her ears are flapping, tail's wagging. So not perturbed by our presence at all. Madam. And you can see she's a very much a left-tusked elephant. So you can see she doesn't have the biggest ivory, and you can see how well worn that left tusk is. So she uses that for feeding. Oh, look at that, she's giving us a sniff. Oh, and the little one made a bit of a noise behind her, and that's changed her body language. You can see how she's a little bit less comfortable. Not by no means angry or aggressive just yet, but she was just a little bit more alert there. There we go. Oh, it looks like she might give herself a little dust bath right next to us. Oh, isn't that just absolutely gorgeous? Magic. Nice cool dust in the morning. It has heated up quite a lot already. Now these big herds of elephants have been spending a lot of time in this area, and there's a little spot just down the road when we were in the height of the sort of summertime drought. The elephants actively cleared an area. Now, I know a lot of you out there are quite worried about the drought and what's going to do to the animals. Drought is not a bad thing. It is part of the system, and it's nature's way of controlling the number of certain species, and even more particularly with bushes. We've had a very wet 8 or 9 years, so there's a lot of young bush around, and at the moment the elephants are feeding very heavily on that. So it's going to open up these crests a bit more, and it's going to give the chance for the grass to have a bit of time to recover. So it's going to be nice. We're going to have a lot more grass, which often means we get a lot more grazing species. Zebra, wildebeest, buffalo. There we go, another Ellie is joined. And you can see that elephant at the back is feeding off a round leaf teak. Now, in the areas where you've got lots of elephants, round leaf teak very rarely gets bigger than what you're looking at now. The elephants literally almost farm it. Now, in an area where there are no elephants, they become massive trees. But here, the elephants keep it nice and short and keep it growing so they can feed off it. Hey, madam. See how she uses her foot to dislodge the dust, and then her trunk to suck it up. Oof. And who said dirt was bad for you? Just look at that. As she breathes, you can actually see the sand and the little sticks moving right in front of her trunk. I must say, we've had such special moments with Ellie's, and I don't think you can ever get tired of these wonderful creatures. She's biting her trunk now, Brian. Look at that. She's got it. She looks like she's sort of chewing on her trunk. Oh! Bless you. It almost like maybe it almost looked like she was trying to force herself to sneeze there for a second. Hey. Yeah. See how she's pointing her trunk towards us, just getting a sniff. And she's probably smelling Jeandre. You can hear Jeandre cackling in the background. As I said, quite a big herd. I guess around 60 or 70. And all that beeping you hear behind me is Jeandre again. Of course, as I told you, anything that goes wrong or is slightly annoying today is all his fault. He's using a little machine to film us filming the elephants. So an elephant's trunk is a very prominent feature. I'm just going to move back a little bit. I think they're going to pop out onto the open area at Impala Plains. And we can actually have a good look at how many ellies there are as they move out of the broad-leafed woodland. And there we go. Yes, I'm sorry. Shake your head at me. You're very big. You're very scary. Oh. Hello, hello. Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Not only do we have all these elephants around us, but we've got female leopard tracks. Very small track. Pretty certain it's our resident female in the area, Karula. But of course we're not going to get out and track these tracks. This is in the middle of a herd of elephants. But very interesting. So, just from the size of the tracks, I'm really sure it's Karula. She's got very small little dainty feet. I'll show you the track in a second, but let's just stick with eddies while we can. And just try and get Brian a better angle. Sitting quite cockeyed at the moment. So, as you see that very long, prominent thing in the middle of the elephant's face, its trunk. And Jen Ward's wondering, do they breathe through that? Yes, they do. It's a specially modified nose. So they do breathe, and they use it for drinking, feeding, dust bathing. It's an incredible, incredible appendage. Now, depending on what you define muscles as, an elephant has 100,000 different muscles in its trunk. Okay, so let me just show you quickly. I'm obviously not going to get out of the car to show you that track. Did I drive her over it? Well, no, I didn't. Yeah, let's just get some light on it. There we go. Okay. You see it, Bebop?
No.
Okay, let me just figure out where we are on camera. There's the grass. Okay, go towards that elephant track there. Or that one, sorry. And then come there. There it is. Okay, so she's around, but of course we're not going to be doing too much walking around. Oh, here comes another ellie crossing the road. And there we go. So we're going to wait for these elephants to move out into the big open area. And while we do that, James has got a spiral-horned I don't know to show you.
We've got quite an interesting situation here, everybody. That's obviously a male nyala, a very impressive bull. But behind him is a young female. And, I mean, she looks like she's almost a calf. She's less than half his size. But they do seem to be consorting with each other in a manner which might be described as romantic. He certainly made a sort of brief attempt to mount her, and she did not look averse. She kind of stood her ground, and there she is there. And so it's quite an interesting situation. I would have thought she was too young, but I'm clearly quite wrong. There aren't any others around, so I would have put her. I mean, how old do I think she is? She's probably just under 2 years old, so probably just maybe into her first estrus. Now, nyala will be slightly less seasonal breeders than something like an Impala. They won't be quite as strictly seasonal, but this would still be late in the season for them to be mating, I would have thought, because it will put the birth date, I think their gestation's around 7 months, so it'll put the birth around June, July, August, oh well, sort of late December, yeah. So, in fact, this is probably a pretty good time for them to mate. I don't think it is too late, actually. It would be late for a kudu, which with its slightly longer gestation, but maybe for the nyala it isn't. In the meantime, as Wium says, they're just looking like they're not doing anything at all by chewing the cud. Us? No, we're just chewing the cud. Just quickly in on the cow there, Wium, I think she's eating strychnos. It's quite interesting. She's eating that black monkey thorn, everybody. Not thorn, black monkey orange. And I seldom see any animals eating that tree. It's a sort of tall, scraggly encroacher species that grows in areas seemingly where there are a lack of elephants. And I've very seldom seen browsers take it. That's interesting. And it's called strychnos, of course, because the seeds contain strychnine. And as Eugene found, Eugene is our technical whiz in the camp, as he found, much to his distress a little while back, he got spiked by a piece of the branch there. Well, here we go. And it took the cut a very long time to heal. I mean, if you didn't know, everyone, you would say that those are two different species completely. He is so much bigger than her, a completely different colour. She's now hiding behind the bush. This is fascinating. I don't want to move, everyone, I'm afraid, because it will give them a fright. So I know they are behind the bush, but you know. That's really interesting. You can see she's not even vaguely averse. Just eating her strychnos. It's a lovely shot of her there. Fascinating, fascinating. Let's carry on. We did hear some elephants off to the right-hand side of where we are now, down in the dip, but we're not going to drive off through there. And as you know, we're not allowed to drive off-road for elephants at the moment for the duration of the drought. Really interesting, that. No further lion tracks. Don't know where he's gone, I'm afraid. Starting to warm up nicely. Wium's just taken off his jacket. And I think we're in for another glorious winter's day. I mean, there are not many parts of the world where you can enjoy sort of 75 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle of winter, or 24 or 5 degrees Celsius. We are, of course, also waiting, or driving past this area on a fairly regular basis, hoping that maybe the lioness with her cubs in Torchwood might bring them this way. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're probably at about 2 weeks old now, maybe 3 weeks, and so it's probably another 3 weeks before they start moving with their mother. Bad piece of road, this. So I think it's probably early days for them to be wandering down here. Anyway, now what often happens is that the lion tracks that come across from where we saw those ones pop out here and they disappear down over the boundary. But these ones are coming in, like you say, Wium. But some of them are going out. There's the male. That's a female, going up and down. I'll just try and see if we can get a nice view for you to have a look at them. Well, here's a bit of a view. One should always look around, of course, see if one doesn't stand up behind a bush in front of you. So here's a lioness. And these are not fresh. These will A, they've been driven over, and B, I think I saw them here the other night when we found the lioness not too far from here when she was roaring. The male,
There's one right here.
you got one. But the female, they are coming up and, yeah. Where have you got the male?
Just see that female
Yeah.
next to it?
Here's the male here. And he's got a much bigger hand. You can see his foot is pretty much the same size as my hand, and while I don't have an enormous hand, it's still a pretty impressive size. Here he's turned round as well. He's done a bit of a circle around here. We're going to go up to the cut line there and just see if he doesn't pop out there. Somebody did drive down here. I wonder if it wasn't that Biffle's hook car. Yeah, reattach myself. Okay, on we go. Yeah. He's come wandering along here. So we'll drive out onto the eastern boundaries, come straight down this road here. Now just bear in mind, I mean, this is a single male on his own. He's not, it doesn't look like a very big male at all. And maybe it's Junior, our old pal Junior. And we don't want him around here. As Jamie was saying the other day, we don't want him around where there are cubs, because that are not his. Because we do know that lions show disturbing propensity to infanticide. So although I know many of you would be happy to see him again, Junior, by the way, is a 4-year-old male who was born to the Nkuhuma Pride, in whose territory we are currently sitting. He was then tossed out by he ran away from the incursion of the Birmingham boys. Have they gone off down there, Wium? Straight over the top of the road, so that's that then. And those Birmingham boys have now sired cubs with his pride, with his natal pride, and so we don't really want him around anymore, I'm afraid. Nice question from James Richard, which of course we could probably sit and shoot the breeze with for hours. But your question is, in my opinion, what is the most primitive predator out here from an evolutionary point of view? Now, remember that you mustn't think of evolution as a kind of a progression towards some kind of end point. So a lot of people think of human beings as being kind of the pinnacle of evolution, which is not really not how you should see it. Any animal that is alive today is a product of evolutionary success. No more or very little more successful or less successful than the other, because we've all got to this point. And evolution very nicely was painted as a Red Queen race. Now, the Red Queen was a character in Alice in Wonderland, and she, no matter how fast she ran, she could never move forward. And that's basically what evolution is. It's a constant or desperate struggle for the survival of the fittest, if you like, to stay alive, but without actually getting ever to an end point. So it'll be a constant change all the time. But to answer your question, what's the most primitive animal? I guess the question would be, what animal has gone or has seen the least evolutionary change over the last while than any other? And I suppose, I don't actually know from a carnivore point of view, but I suspect it may well be the lion. You know, the lion's ancestors, which go back, I mean, they will share a common ancestor with many of the saber-toothed cats. They're very ancient, they died out, but the lion was once apparently the most widely distributed carnivore in all the world. So I'm going to say it's probably a lion, James. I don't know that for sure, but it could well be a lion. And then if we look, I mean, another interesting just way of looking at this is that we look at something like a cheetah, which went through an evolutionary bottleneck. We think all of the cheetah in the world are descended from very few females. could be as few as 3. Now that, a bottleneck that results in there being 3 breeding females left in the world it's unusual, and it's most of the time an animal like that will experience an extinction. And so you might consider them slightly less successful than something like a lion. But it is very important not to consider evolution as a kind of a ramp towards some kind of pinnacle, because conditions will change all the time. So what can be successful now, so for example human beings we're extremely successful. There's some elephants, hooray. While we are successful now as human beings, were environmental conditions to change, say oxygen will suddenly sucked out of the atmosphere. There are lots of elephants here, both sides of the road, so we're just going to be careful. You can see her ears are open because she's just interested in what we are interested in, especially as half the herd is to the left-hand side of the road. Now she's relaxing slightly. She almost looks like she's asleep, I wonder if she wasn't just having a rest. A very stocky cow, that. Not very tall, but very muscly. She looks quite pregnant, don't you think, Wium?
Yeah, looks like a locomotive.
She looks like a locomotive. Thank you, Wium. I wouldn't say that too loudly, Wium. You don't want to be calling a woman a locomotive, especially if she's pregnant. So she's quite relaxed, and we're often asked about the dangers associated with this job, and there's dangers associated with viewing animals in an open vehicle at such close proximity. And the key is to try and assess the behavior of the animal. So when we drove up here, we could see that her ears were open, and she was standing with her head held high because she wasn't particularly comfortable. Now we've turned off, we've gone quiet. She's assessed us not to be a threat at this stage. That can change at any stage, of course, but at the moment she's very relaxed and just eating. Well, she does have a huge bulge there on her belly. And Evie Murphy, let's just watch this cow, then I'll answer your question. She's a very stocky cow. She's not very tall at all. It's quite interesting. She's quite, one hesitates to use the term dumpy, but certainly not within earshot of her, of course. I just don't want to start the car at the moment. There are some of the elephants crossing behind us, so I'm not going to start just yet. I'm just going to let her cross behind us. And she's listening to us. That's why she stopped moving. There are a whole lot of them now moving behind us. And she's basically keeping herself between the younger ones and us in order to protect them. And just make sure that we mean no harm. There she goes. She's quite short, isn't she, Wium? I'm not imagining that. That's really interesting, actually. Cool.
I think that's the fattest elephant I've ever seen.
Wium, you can't call pregnant elephants fat. Well, here's a young bull. He thought about being tough for a second there, and then he ran off. So, E.B. Murphy, you want to know, I'm going to move around the corner now. You want to know if we encourage guests in the lodge to leave their colognes and expensive scents behind so as not to irritate the elephants. No, we don't. I've no doubt they can smell them. I don't think it affects them nearly as much. It's just an unfamiliar smell. The smell of human, though, is very familiar to animals, and they pick that up immediately. And so you'll actually probably find that a strong perfume or scent would mask the smell of human, which the animals generally don't like at all. That was a really interesting sighting, actually. I don't think she's too far off giving birth, that cow. Let me move, shall I sneak a bit forward? We can't really see them anymore, and like I say, we can't follow them off the road. But that's okay, we've seen them well. You've seen some others today as well. We'll just ease forward here. There we go. And just listen. I mean, we're probably 10 or 12 elephants there, almost completely silent as they move. We'll try and get another view just in front of us. We're not too far. I think they may be coming towards a curve in the road up ahead. You may hear the odd expelling of gas. Mark, you're watching them obviously eating branches and twigs and wondering how big a piece of twig or branch an elephant can eat. Well, it really depends on the elephant, Mark. A big bull, I've seen big bulls eat combretum branches sort of about that big. They won't eat the whole thing, though. They will eat the bark off them. But, yeah, so, I mean, that's probably about the thickness that they will try and take the bark off. But they don't actually eat the wood. Wood, of course, is almost devoid of nutrition. Well, for most animals' digestive systems. BMB, here's your favorite tree.
Oh, Karula.
Correct, false marula. Let's ease our way around the corner here and see if we can get another view. Sorry, Kirsten, I'm afraid I missed that one. Kitty, kitty, bang, bang. You've got a question, but I'm afraid I missed it. It had to do with tusks, I think. Ah. Do they have holes in their upper lips that the tusks go through? There's one looking at us now. And in fact, if we get right in under there, you can answer your question for you. They don't have holes, kitty, kitty, bang, bang. It just comes out under the lip. It's basically like your two front teeth, your two incisor teeth, growing really long and just kind of folding your top lip over, over the top of them. There are no holes in the lip at all, no. They come straight out of the mouth. That is the incisor tooth, or teeth, two of them. So I know exactly what you mean. It does look a little bit like there's a hole there, but no, there isn't. It's just the mouth wrapped around the tusk. And of course, specially designed like that so that the elephant can actually close its mouth. Sometimes you'll see a hippo with their tusks. You know, their canines get very long. They're not the incisors. And the canines apparently in some male hippo will grow through the top of the lip. You know, they from constantly pushing up against the top lip, the bottom canines can sometimes actually make a hole and come through. But in an elephant, that isn't the case. Very nice, Wium. Well done. That was a very artful zoom out. I like that a lot. Well done.
Would like to see an artful zoom in as well.
Yes, I would. Very good. Right, well, that was a very artful zoom in, and while the elephant disappears into the bush, let's head across to Brent Leo Smith and see what he's got to tell you.
So that Eddie herd we were with has disappeared. So the last really fresh leopard track I had was heading west. So I'm now just checking the boundary between Arethusa and Djuma to see if she hasn't possibly crossed. And while I've got you guys with me, I think we should see if there's anything happening on Arethusa. Oh, let's unravel my... I managed to get all cables all knotted all the time. So I'm just going to lean forward. Morning stations in the west. Are there any updates for Safari and Dow? So we're keeping a very close lookout and see if those tracks. So I think she might possibly still be in this block. It's one of our bigger blocks. When we refer to a block, it's an area of bush that's got no roads in it. So it's between a couple of roads, and it is one of our bigger areas that doesn't have any roads. So it sounds like no updates on Arethusa this morning. So we'll just keep moving very slowly down Triple M, and hopefully we will spot a track. I definitely want to go have a quick look around that little river system that's right at the boundary of Djuma, and where Shadow used to keep Sindile last year. So with female leopards, it's not uncommon for them to utilize the same area often. So I'm just going to try and deal with this knot here. So Mia, hello Mia. Mia's in Illinois, and Mia's wondering, do leopard moms ever bring live kills back to their cubs to finish off like cheetah? Not really. If it does happen, the cub is actually quite close to her when she makes the kill. It can happen, but it's more unusual. It's not like cheetah where it happens quite regularly. So it's possible, but unlikely. Now, a lot of people worry about big cats that have sort of, say, grown up in captivity, or way of saying, you know, we've got to now teach them how to hunt. And that is the biggest and utter load of crock. All those sort of hunting skills are instinctual. And you can watch a leopard cub stalking without its mom, cisticulars, squirrels, monitor lizards, anything that's about. And a lot of that sort of polishing of the hunting happens while mom's away, and it's stalking nearly impossible prey to catch, like little birds that are this big. Speaking of little birds that are this big, apparently I got likened to a Haida ibis earlier on the safari, and of course Commander Bond's being quite insulting. He's a very loud bird, but he missed the boat a little bit, because he should have likened me to a grey lory. And that, strangely enough, is one of those trackers I was talking about earlier. His nickname for me was nyala, which is the grey lory. Apparently I like to sit on top of the tree and make a lot of noise. So there we go. And I think I'd prefer to be a grey lory than a Haida. And I've been trying to think about what bird we could compare to James. Jeandre, and let's just make this very certain, I'm not picking on James. Jeandre said James is like a marabou stork. I think Jeandre is referring to the lack of feathers on its head, but I think it's a bit tall. And it's a very tall bird. And then I know James was speaking about bearded vultures, and I thought maybe Egyptian vulture, because they're also bald. But then I thought, no, I need to think about this more carefully. So there's a lot of different options. Brian, do you have any ideas on what bird we should compare James to?
A bald eagle.
Brian says a bald eagle. Obviously there's lots of jokes about James's lack of a full set of hair at the moment. He used to be very proud of hair when he had it, and his wonderful afro. Take hours grooming it. But I don't think bald eagle, it's too big. And he does eat a lot of seeds, so I'm thinking like a small seed eater. And I don't know, canary's too pretty. Although there are some ugly canaries out there. Streaky-headed canary comes to mind. I think we're going to have to think about this, but I definitely will have one before the end of the sunrise safari. And apparently it was Wium who referred to me as a hardy dog. Wium is a bird I think is a bit easier to pin down. Wium I see being a water bird of some kind. Or an emu. There we go. Wium is an emu. And not quite as tall as an ostrich, which would probably be Brian or Jeandre, being long and men of a few words. And actually, no, I wouldn't call Brian an ostrich. He's too smart. Maybe Jeandre. They're not very clever birds, ostriches. Unfortunately, no tracks yet. But this is this little river system we're coming up on here that Shadow really liked to keep cubs in the past. There's an incredibly thick Timbursy thickets in there. And actually, Brian's first ever leopard on foot was with me, and we're out on tracking team, and we walked in here and we found Shadow and Sindile on a duiker kill, and Shadow gave us a little ground, a little mini charge in the thicket. There we go, lovely spot. It's quite funny. Yesterday on the Sunset Safari, I was talking about how this little corner was the first place I saw wild dogs on game drive, on my interview drive, and first time Brian and I walked leopard. So it's been a really good little corner to us. Oh, speaking of birds, oh, it took off. It might be one or two left behind, but it was an African green pigeon that was zipped out of there. Papegaai duif in Afrikaans, parrot dove. Oh, so there was also one on the Djuma Cam earlier. So they're called parrot doves because they've got zygodactyl feet. So it's the only one of the sort of pigeon and dove family that has got 2 toes facing forward and 2 toes facing back. The rest that spend most of their time feeding on grass seeds on the ground have 3 toes facing forward and 1 back. And of course they're fruit eaters, so that's an amazing evolutionary adaptation to be able to grip, hang upside down while they feed on fruit. And they even look quite a lot like parrots, even though they are very obviously doves. So their beak, unlike any of the other dove or pigeon species, has a slight hook on it, which they'll use for opening up fruit. But we can definitely rule out a green pigeon as Wium or James. So no tracks coming out. So I just want to check the top end of Philemon's. Well done, Safari Dean. I think it's spot on. A lapwing makes a lot of noise, but quite irritating noise, like background. Dank, 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 dank. And he struts around. I mean, his nickname for a while was the Dashhund Rondelozzi because he decided he walked like a sausage dog. But no, I think Safari Dean, you are spot on. James is a lapwing. Now we need to decide which lapwing. Now, which lapwing do we think is the most irritating? Blacksmith, or crowned, or wattled? I think we're going to go with blacksmith. Dink, 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 dink. Yes, blacksmith lapwing. There we go. That's James. It's aspiring to be tall, but it never quite got there. Oh, we're going to have... Hello, hello. Ingwe, where? How far?
About 2
Okay, hold on, thanks very much. There's a leopard on the road. Hold on, Safari, here we go. Let me just check on the Eastern Channel. I wonder who it could be. Oh, too many radios. So just give me a sec here. I'm just going to jump on to the other radio channel. Wrong channel. We need to go. That's morning stations in the east side. So I have a report of Ingwe on Gowrie Mac. Can we confirm across south? What's the vehicle line up there? Copy, thanks. So we're going to take a chance. It's moving south. Apparently there's still visual from this road. So while I speed, let's go across to Jeandre.
So here we have some fruitarian birds, the red-faced mouse birds, and they're hanging on a guarri bush, or Euclea divinorum, and they are fruiting still, I think, a little bit. And that's what the mouse birds will be eating, the fruits of the Euclea bush. And as Wium was saying, that one there is hanging. Well, that one isn't. That's a green pigeon. Thanks very much. I didn't see that. He's also fruitarian, and he'll be eating the fruits. That is a beautiful, beautiful shot of a green pigeon. Wow. That is stunning. Very nice, Wium. Well spotted. Why are we leaving him? Let's look at him again. We don't often see them like that, everyone. And as I've told you before, that bird is not in fact green at all, believe it or not. It is yellow and blue. The pigments in the feathers are yellow and pale blue, and it just gives it a greenish hue. The only birds with the green pigment are the lories. That is a magnificent looking bird. Anyway, can we go quickly back up to your mouse bird friend Wimpy? And Wium was just pointing out, and this of course becomes obvious as soon as you watch mouse birds, they don't perch. See that? It's hanging there. They just sort of hang in the tree. And you very seldom see them actually sitting or standing, as was pointed out to us today, on a branch. They're more often hanging like that, which looks deeply uncomfortable, but it seems for them to be relatively comfortable. Very nice. One more look at the green pigeon, Wium? You want to have a look? I'm going to attempt to take a photograph of it. Of course, this will be a very poor photograph because I'm a dreadful photographer. Thanks, Wium. Thanks for that. I can't even see the bird. Let's put that away, shall we? I think we'll stick to my picular. Let's move on. Wium, one day I'm going to get you back for all of this. Hang on a second. Apparently Karula is around and close by here, and Brent is on his way there, but we don't know if he'll have signal, so we're going to head towards the same area. Okay, I'm just going to quickly, Kirsten, you said Triple M, which is of course nowhere near Twin Dams. Where is the leopard? Okay, Kirsten's just going to find out. So Brenty is racing towards Karula and cubs, but of course Wendy doesn't have great signal down here, but Rusty, which we're on, does. This could be very interesting. We're also unfortunately going to go through the construction site that is Twin Dams. Go down there as fast as possible. Of course Rusty not quite as fast as normal, firing on just 5 cylinders. Feels like about 2. So where she had the cubs in the culvert on Gowrie Main. That's fascinating. Okay, well, I know where that is. We're not too far from there. Only about 2 minutes. Well, in a properly firing car. Hold on, everybody. Brilliant. Okay, let's go across to Brent and enjoy the Queen.
So definitely not our best leopard sighting, but it is Queen Karula. both cubs are apparently here. I can't see the cubs at the moment, but hopefully they will make an appearance. So she's just to the south of our traverse area. I'll use those eagle eyes, see if you can see a little bundle of fur. I was wondering if the cubs might be suckling, and we just can't see from this angle. Maybe let's just try reverse a little bit, see if we can get a different angle on her. Or maybe the cubs have moved slightly behind her into that thicket. We're not really going to get a view here, are we? Let's try. Through this? No. No. She's literally chosen the most awkward spot to lie. I'm just going to go a little bit further forward, see if we can see the cubs maybe. They could be playing in that nice sort of shaded area. We will come back to her now and now. Well, there's a nice little South Africanism for you. We like things that are just now and now. And okay. I just want to check on this termite mound. Leopard cubs often like to play on termite mounds and stuff like that. So it could be we might get a better visual of the babies than her. Okay, no, I can't see any little fluff balls. We've got 6 sets of eyes today. More eyes you have on the vehicle, the better it is. No, that's an elephant deposit, not a leopard cub. So when you've got the best of a difficult view, Brian. There we go. Now it's definitely worth just sitting here for a while and waiting, and hopefully we do get some movement. And so it looks like she just crossed out of Djuma today, so she's been around, but it doesn't look like she's got a kill, so there's a strong possibility she might come back. Now, interestingly enough, where we are at the moment is the site of her second den site. So she kept the cubs under in a rainwater drain under the road right here below us at the moment. Henry. So I've just got to update the other vehicles who are asking about this. Henry, there's visual from Gary Main. It's not great. I can't see any of the Mumpimpans. I can just see her. If you are interested, it is basically where she had her second den. So there are those concrete culverts that run under the road. She's lying directly opposite one of those. There is a quarry branch on the southern side of the road pointing towards her. Negative, we're the only people here. So, very exciting, even though she's a little bit far away. And nice to know, really confirm. I mean, I was 90% sure when we had her tracks the other morning that both cubs were alive after she obviously had a very stressful night with hyenas and lion at her Impala kill. And they were both seen this morning, so they're definitely there. Now, where is a different question. So, they're probably not too far from here. I'm almost wondering if they might not be suckling. But we would normally just see a little bit of movement to a tail flick from the little ones. So they're probably also doing the same as she is and resting up. So the other unfortunate thing about this road, it is a main thoroughfare road, and we're blocking up the road, so I just need to move so the car can get past. Brian, just...
So there we go, I see one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Here we go. I just also spotted it at the same time. Here we go. Where is it now?
It's coming out, just to your left.
Here we go. As we reversed there, I spotted it. I think we're going to get a better view from where we were here.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go forward. So, as we were about to say, isn't it? There it is. Look, there it is. There's the little one. Oh, Brian, I'm so sorry. I got so excited when I saw the cub, I forgot to move the camera into the spot. Here we go. There it is. Hello, little fluff ball. Isn't that just wonderful? So there's one cub. So we're pretty sure there's a male and a female cub. We definitely know one's a male. We haven't really been able to get a proper sex on the second cub just yet. So Justin's wondering, why do I think Karula is so successful? Oh, there we go. Justin, I'll get to your question in a second. Let's just really enjoy this. Oh, I think I'm going to try and sneak a bit further forward for you, Brian.
Second one's coming.
How's that?
Cool, second one's coming.
Second one's coming. Jeandre spotted it.
On the left.
Should be coming in from the left of screen. Maybe feeling a little jealous. Okay, while we wait for that other cub to pop in to shot, Justin is wondering, why do I think Karula is such a successful mother? Well, Justin, I don't think there's any real one answer to that. Oh, look at them. Isn't that sweet? And look at that. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? So I just think certain leopards are good mothers and certain leopards aren't. Oh, where are you going? No, come back. And Karula just seems to be a particularly good mother. I think the main reason we're not seeing more of her and these cubs is because of the current placement of the hyena dens. So traditionally she used to use the river system around the Vuurtela Lodge to rear her cubs when they were young. But there's now a hyena den right there, and it's also that hyena clan has grown so much even in a year and a bit that I've been here, that I think that's the main reason that she's decided to push further south into her territory with these little cubs. There we go, coming back. So, very nice of the Queen of Djuma to let us into this little private time with her babies before the end of the sunrise safari. Said unfortunately they're just outside our Travis area, and I don't think they're going to be here in the afternoon. The cubs might though. She might leave the cubs around this drainage system if she goes off hunting. So it's definitely worth coming to check. But isn't that just special? And I'm going to just say, from Brian, myself, and Jeandre, thankfully we got to see some leopards and some elephants while also doing behind the scenes. But we'll see you very shortly for the sunset safari. But for the last 2 seconds, let's look at those leopards.